Good morning, Dr. Morgentaler. How are you, my man?
Good to be with you.
So you wrote this book, Why Men Fake It. I've never done that. That seems to me that I never have. I'll be honest. That seems to me like not many guys would fake it. We wouldn't need to.
Right. So first of all, it's shocking. It's shocking for most people to hear that a guy would ever do it because it really was an unknown thing. I'm glad that one of you already is talking about your experience with it because it turns out to not be that rare. But the reason I wrote this book isn't just to tell people that guys do that. It's just one of many things that we don't know about men and sexuality. What interests me more is the mind of men and why would guys do that. So I'm a sexual medicine guy. I've been dealing with guys for 25 years with their pants down, if you will.
You've probably seen, what do you think, thousands of penises probably?
Oh, yeah, thousands and thousands. And I think that guys have gotten a very bad rap. And that I think that men don't really understand what's going on with other guys, and women, I think, have a totally wrong impression of men. And what was cool about the story you just told is or your associate there, is that guys will fake it really for the same reason that women will, which is when they know it's not going to happen, and they want to. It's really an act of kindness for the other person or towards the other person. Kind of like saying, "Okay, you've done a good job. I appreciate it, and it's like a little reward, and now we can go to sleep."
But I've often told women who call into the show and they say, "Oh, I faked it. I can't reach I can't climax with my husband or boyfriend or whatever," so they fake it. And I say, "Well, but you're not doing the guy any favor because if you fake it and the guy thinks that whatever his technique that he's doing right there, and he thinks that works for you, and that's what gets you to climax." That guy's going to go back to the well. He's going to keep doing it. And so he'll never actually learn the way to make you climax if you fake it.
Well, I think in general I agree with you, and I'm not here to advocate that everybody goes around faking their orgasms, because there is a level of deception with it that isn't great. But the reason it became the title of my book was because I think people have a totally wrong idea about what men are all alike. What men are like. And I think that the overwhelming standard narrative is that guys, when it comes to sex and relationships, are selfish, they're thoughtless about their partner, and they care only about themselves. And what I hear in my practice behind my closed exam room door every day is exactly the opposite, that whether or not they're doing it in a great way, guys are trying to be thoughtful and being a sexual provider for their partners. It's the opposite.
But I think that could be that guys are so full of themselves. Now, I could be wrong, but guys want to have the reputation of having great sexual prowess, and that if you sleep with a girl, you're afraid that she'll go to her friends and go, "I slept with Rover. He was terrible. He lasted 30 seconds. No one wants that. That's why we go above and beyond to please the girl. It's almost to satisfy our own egos.
Yeah, well, there is something to that. And listen, so masculinity is really a key driver for men in all arenas, right? So there's competitive stuff, guy against guy. But I think that, with what's been missing is how much guys, once they have feelings for their partners, actually want to be manly for their partner. Every comic book that you ever read growing up or the guys read, the guy's fighting off the aliens or saving the planet Earth. There's always some girl, though, that he's crazy about, right? And there's some tension between, Superman's got to save Lois Lane when she's about to fall off, I don't know, the sidewalk or something, and he stops fighting the meteors and whatever else. Guys want to be heroes, I think. They want to be grand in the eyes of their partners. And we can argue forever about whether that's really just satisfying their ego or whether they're really doing something that's noble. Everybody that does something good, whether you're, a philanthropist or you're Mother Teresa, on some level you're doing it because there's something that tells you I'm doing good by me.
How many guys would do you think are unable to climax or have to fake their orgasms, percentage-wise?
Well, you know what? There's not a whole lot of data about it, but there was one study out of the University of Kansas that quoted a figure of around 20%. And then there was another online survey, maybe not the most scientific, that quoted a number around 30% of guys who have said they've done it at least once in their lives.
1 in 5 guys have this, or maybe even 1 in 3 guys have this issue.
Not insubstantial. Let me tell you that when my patient first came to me, that became, the lead story in my book, I'd never heard of this before, and I was fascinated. I was fascinated by how he did it, but once I got beyond that, I was really curious about the why. And he did it because he was a guy who just was unable to climax during sex. He could do it on his own, but not with a partner. And he thought he was a stud, as he had basically one-night stands, and he could just keep going like the Energizer Bunny. But when he fell in love with this girl, he got the sense that she was feeling bad about her own feminine sex appeal or feminine skills. And so he quickly started faking it so that she would feel better about herself. I thought that was fascinating. And since I came across him, I've started talking to people and asking about it, and it's not that rare. When I got the cover of my book, when I got my final book, I took it to meet a friend and show it to him at a restaurant. We're sitting at the bar, and there's a group right next to me, 2 women and a guy, and one of the women sees the book, and she goes, "That's an interesting title, Why Men Fake It. What's it about? It can't be about faking orgasms, because guys don't do that." And the guy who's with them says, "Sure they can. I've done it many times."
Wow. So apparently guys, well, it's interesting because Dieter, my co-host, said that he's faked it before. Dr. Abraham Morgentaler is on with us. The book is called Why Men Fake It. My phone screener, Dumb, he was married for a while. Dumb, you would not be able to climax with your wife on a regular. Were you ever able to climax with her, or how often, percentage-wise, could you not?
It would often take a long time. I would say more often than not, I would not climax. It would take, I would say 90% of the time, I wouldn't.
And I mean, you're going for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever
to the point where she would say, "Look, this just isn't. We need to stop because it's starting to become uncomfortable for her."
Now you have, so he divorced that wife, Dr. Morgentaler. You divorce her. Now you have a girlfriend. Is that problem cropped back up, or
gone?
You can now climax
every time. It's like sometimes I scared that I'm turning into a
Quick Draw McGraw.
You got it, buddy. It's really weird how the total 180 I've turned.
Why? What do you think could cause that, Dr. Morgentaler? Is that just that he was not attracted to his wife or didn't love his wife, or what could cause that with one woman, but then he gets a new girlfriend and he's able to climax once again?
So there can be a number of reasons. Sometimes there is such a thing as compatibility and sexual compatibility. I don't know anything about the relationship, but sometimes when there's any kind of, guys are more vulnerable to stress and sort of negative feelings and static in a relationship than anyone ever thinks. This idea that guys are like robots and just pumping machines is absurd. So sometimes there can be something like that. Sometimes alcohol can play a role. When guys drink, some guys will say, "I just know I'm not going to get there,"
right.
Even though we think that alcohol makes them looser. A lot of guys are on medications called the antidepressants called SSRIs that we take now, not for depression, but so many guys are on it for anxiety or whatever else. They have names like Prozac and Paxil and Zoloft and Effexor, and they can cause sexual side effects, including difficulty having an orgasm. And some guys have lower levels of testosterone that can actually make it harder to have an orgasm and also have less desire. Sometimes when a guy is feeling great, they're much more sexual. And when a guy is down, and it could be a relationship that isn't working well or stress at work, things just aren't going to happen.
Does size, this always comes up, I don't know if it's covered in your book, but does size matter? Guys are always concerned about their own size. Girls will tell stories. Every girl has a story of, "I had this guy one time and it was the size of my pinky." And I go, "That's impossible. Your pinky, there's no way." "Yes, I swear it was the size of my pinky." You've seen thousands of these. Are there some that are that tiny, and how much does size matter?
Yeah. So guys are consumed about size. And, the 95% of penises actually fall within a relatively small range of size variation. And We have showers and we have growers, and that part's real. But, the tiny penis is called micropenis is super rare. I mean, that's less than 2 inches. And that's rare, and usually there's a medical reason for it. Women, it's a funny thing. So size is important for men. It never used to be an issue for women, but women have become so much more vocal about sexuality that it starts putting some additional pressure on men. I was on the CBS This Morning show just the other day, and I was talking about a survey. It's in my book, Why Men Fake It, that asked men whether they thought they were normal in size, above average, or below average. And 75% of the guys responded they thought they were below average.
Really?
Which statistically, of course, is
impossible, right?
But guys have a tendency to feel like they're not adequate. And part of it, I think, these days, too, is that, first of all, everybody exaggerates. And then Internet porn is so instantly available to people. And the guys who are on in those movies are selected really because they're freaks of nature. Just like there's some women who have enormous breasts, but, they don't fit into the bell curve very well, and it's not reality. And when guys start looking at enough of these, they tend to feel like, well, there's no way I can measure up to that.
Dr. Abraham Morgentaler is on with us. His book is Why Men Fake It, The Totally Unexpected Truth About Men and Sex. I have 2 questions for you before I let you go. One, and then Jeffrey, what do you have? One of my other guys here is hovering. Go ahead, Jeffrey, quickly.
My penis is quite small. Dr. Morgan, if the good doctor can help me with my little problem, I'm kind of a quick draw McGraw, and I had a vasectomy. I was wondering if my vasectomy might have something to do with it.
So vasectomy has nothing to do with sexual performance and size or how quick people come. It's got nothing to do with hormone levels, and it barely even changes the amount of fluid that comes out. It only reduces it by about 5 or 10%. But a lot of people want to attribute whatever issue they have to the vasectomy. Quick ejaculation is really tough for guys, and it's interesting because what's tough about it for them is they still have the orgasm, they still have the pleasure. The impact is they don't feel like good lovers, and they feel like they haven't been able then to provide for their partner. So, that's the whole thing, and that's the theme of the book. There are treatments for it. There's some sprays that you can try. There's some medications you can do. There's actually some training kind of biofeedback type stuff. And when
can you just think about other stuff, like think about like non-sexual stuff? Like sometimes every guy has climax before he wants to. Thankfully, I don't regularly have the problem, but I think most guys, I just start trying to think about, I have to do my taxes or something like that.
The alphabet backwards, or your
people do a lot of that, but I would say that the number one issue is that most people are unaware of their body, and so there's some things that will be like triggers for us sexually, some spots that really feel better than others, motions, and guys need to be aware of that and save those and those positions and what they're doing for when they really want to come. Because some guys have the other problem, like one of your guys there who was talking about difficulty having an orgasm. And, don't do just what you see in the movies, because for some guys that's going to be an instant release for them. But I want to tell you one thing, though. What's interesting to me as somebody who's been studying sexuality for so long is that premature ejaculation is a negative word. It's really sexist. Imagine a man and a woman making out in a car, and the man comes, right? He feels bad. The woman may think it's like funny. Terrible. Imagine the reverse now. Man and woman are making out, and she has an orgasm just for making out. Nobody would say anything negative about her. We'd say, on the contrary, she's incredibly sexually responsive.
Right.
There's no term, negative or positive, for that woman. But for men, we have this thing we call, it's a medical condition, we've called it, it's premature ejaculation. It's sexist, and it has to do with this idea that is contrary to the standard narrative, which is that men are actually all about the women during sex.
Well, but guys are, I think that every single guy has had this issue at some point in their life, right?
Sure, very common.
And in guys, you're telling me guys do want to please a woman more than most people think, that the guys really are concerned. They're not as selfish as you would believe.
That's right. Men want to be sexual providers, and for any women that are listening in, who I feel bad for women these days. I think women are discouraged. I'm never going to find a good guy. They're all jerks out there. It's not true. Once guys want to be manly, and part of their sense of manliness is actually being great towards their partner in ways that feel good for them. And one of those ways is actually being good sexually.
How rare is, this is my last question for you, just because I see here you are or were an associate clinical professor of urology at Harvard Medical School. Is that correct?
Yeah, still am, sure.
Okay.
I teach the medical students.
How rare is this condition? I'll tell you a condition that I have. Never even heard of it. If someone would have told me that this condition exists, I would say you're making it up. It's in your head. So years ago, 6-7 years ago, I started getting this pain in the tip of my penis. And I go to the doctor because I go, I must have some sort of STD, something. They go, we can't find anything. I mean, they're doing test after test after test after test. I'm going to, specialist after specialist. We have the Cleveland Clinic here. There's a whole big urology. I mean, that's a pretty, good hospital. So I go there, and they diagnose me with, I forget the actual name of this, but essentially what they've explained to me is that the muscles in your pelvic floor can either tighten or become tense and refer that pain right to the tip of your dong. Have you heard of this?
Sure. So it's called prostatodynia, or male pelvic pain disorder. And there are a number of things that create what's called referred pain to the penis. Referred pain means that the problem is in one place, but you experience it somewhere else.
Right.
So kidney stone pain can actually be felt in the testicles or in the penis or anywhere down in the inguinal or groin area. And anything to do with the prostate is often felt within the penis as well. Sometimes it can be a true infection, which we call prostatitis, and sometimes it's not an infection, but really more of an irritation in that area that can cause the condition that you're describing.
How uncommon is this? Because they go, oh, here's a book on it. They gave me a book. I go, I'm reading this book. I go, all right, someone else has the same problem. But, I mean, this I've never heard another guy ever tell,
Sure.
I've never heard of anything like this.
More common than you think. So that kind of discomfort is probably prevalent in about 2 or 3% of men.
Oh,
it's common. It's not unusual at all.
Oh, I told before I was diagnosed with that, I swear I came on the air. I go, I want you to chop it off. I can't deal with this pain. It was unbearable.
He said
Dr. Morgentaler. It was crazy.
Yeah, don't chop it off because that won't help it. That's not a good idea.
Dr. Abraham Morgentaler, his book is called Why Men Fake It, and apparently quite a few men do fake it. The Totally Unexpected Truth About Men and Sex. The book is available in stores now. The website, menshealthboston.com. I know that he's the director of Men's Health Boston. You can get this book on Amazon.com and all of that. And last question, have you ever faked it, Dr. Morgentaler?
No, I have not, but I think that's a good way to end it.
All right. I just thought maybe his research with research of the book, he thought, well, let me give this a shot. See if Dr. Abraham Morgentaler, thank you for coming on, my man.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.